So if I look at the floor plan, this by default is set walkable. I look at the floor plan that gets generated here, and it's big. It takes longer. And on a weaker computer, you might run out of memory. But let's see. That's a lot of terrain, right? I could walk pretty much everywhere on here. But as I lower the maximum slope, it should.
Yeah, and this is a good example. Like you might not want people to walk up there.
Yeah.
So in this scene, you could even lower it like really low, like this.
Or even
now you'll only be able to walk on.
Even like 2. If I set it to 2 degree, I think
it should only be the inner area, which might be kind of what you wanted for this scene, depending on what you were doing with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. So
there's a couple little things out here, but not too bad.
And I suspect again, like that's just cutting through the terrain. So if you hide the terrain, I think that's probably might be one continuous piece, but I can't tell.
Let's see. I'll hide it, and then I'll go back to floor plan. It should show it. A couple got connected.
Yeah, there's a little bit. Yeah, because there's some mountains in there. But anyway, yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect either, because like you're not just going to end up walking onto those pieces of there. You can teleport onto them, which is a little weird.
And actually, depending on how far away those little islands are, your teleporter might not even reach them.
Right. But like I said, I think we want to make it so that you can, if you want to take ultimate control over this and be very precise and do that, we want to make it so that you can specify your own mesh. But that's not available yet.
Yep.
One trick you can do if you want something kind of in between, and want to be able to do it right now, if you make a mesh that you kind of want to act as the navigation mesh, bring that into Spoke, and then have that be the only thing you mark as walkable. It will generate the navigation mesh from that. It's still doing the voxelization and stuff, and so you're still going to get those sorts of issues, but it'll get you closer to precise control. I think it shouldn't actually be too hard to support completely custom navigation meshes. So that's probably something we'll do relatively.
Here's an example, not a great one, but at one point I was trying to make. Let's see if I can find it. I may not even have this scene anymore. Oh, is this like war memorial? I found this photogrammetry, and I was like, oh, would this? This was actually before our Mozilla Berlin trip, and this is somewhere in Berlin, and I was like, oh, this would be neat. This is actually huge. Like a person in this scene in real life. I mean, those are people right there. They're really little.
Right.
So this is a really big thing. Now, there's not a ton of detail. But I didn't want people to be able to like walk up on these trees because they're just mesh, they're just a piece of mesh.
Yeah, and this is like a photogrammetry scan.
So in this, I made a separate mesh, and I exported it as a GLB from Blender, and this is what the other mesh actually looks like, just sitting on top. It's like a cone in a ground and a couple little cutout parts around the edges of the trees.
Right, and now that isn't your navigation mesh because we don't have the ability to literally specify that as your mesh.
Right.
That would be nice, like because that is a nice navigation mesh, as is. But then if you look at the floor plan, the thing that gets generated is going to be kind of based just on that.
Yeah. So if I turn the main mesh back on, that one is not set walkable. You can't generate nav mesh on this whole thing. Only my special one, and so that one is hidden. And then the floor plan says, okay, I'll generate it even on your hidden stuff. And so when it's done, what you end up with is a pretty clean floor plan that's just cut out around these trees, and a bit of a cone that goes up on a nice slope. So that's like one really simple example. It's not that fun to build your own floor plan, but it can be very satisfying when you get a better result than you got from like this heavy mesh. Because I think this photogrammetry mesh is, if I look at the GLTF
it's
info
probably kind of nuts, yeah.
Yeah, it's got 48,000 triangles, so that's quite a bit. Not unheard of, but once you get into photogrammetry stuff with like millions of triangles, then you got problems. So you might want to make your own.